Alright, greetings from the Morrow Man Cave / Playroom, as you can see from the Hot Wheels tracks over to our side there. I am not present in the classroom in case you haven't noticed yet, and considering the way some of you pay attention, you might not have. So, I'm not there, but you still have a test on Friday, and since I'm not there and not able to give you the lesson in person, I, with the assistance of my trusty assistant, Evan, my middle child, is going to help us do the notes here. Okay? So we're going to do the state government notes today. Alright? So, now, starting with state government. We're talking about state government and how it's different from the federal government. We've talked most of the semester about federal government and the fact that how it operates. Now, state government we don't spend a whole lot of time on because simply, state government's very similar to the federal government. So what we're going to spend most of our time on is the things that are different between the two. Alright, so, state constitutions. Now, as we talked about in the beginning with the U.S. Constitution, all the state constitutions were very similar to what we have now with the U.S. Constitution. And the state constitutions made it where we use a lot of those ideas in the federal Constitution. So, all state constitutions vary. They're different. But they all provide a separation of powers among three branches of government, which are the legislative, executive, and judicial, just like the federal level, right? They all have a Bill of Rights, which if you remember, the whole thing about passing the original Constitution with the Federalists and Anti-Federalists was they wanted a Bill of Rights in there. Well, the state governments had those. And they all include most or all of the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments that are in the Constitution, plus they have some extra ones that may not be there. And the big difference between the federal Constitution and the state Constitution is the federal Constitution only sets up one government, the U.S. government, whereas the state Constitution sets up not just the state Constitution, but the local government, the county government, any special districts, city governments, because as you remember we talked about the whole unitary system in which the state establishes the lower governments. And without the state, the lower governments don't exist, because tomorrow we talked about the idea that the state government came in and decided that they didn't want to have a local government, that would be gone, if you remember that. Alright, so also, they regulate the way state and local governments can raise and spend money because, again, like we talked about, they are not, the local governments do not have their own system as the state government does. They break out state. They establish state agencies, boards, and commissions. Also, the state constitution is the highest law in the state. But, as we've talked about several times, is nothing is higher than the U.S. Constitution. It goes back to the Supremacy Clause. Alright? Article 6. Constitution, Supremacy Clause. The supreme law of the land is the U.S. Constitution. The state constitutions fall below it. If there is any conflict, the U.S. government, U.S. Constitution always wins. The amendment process varies in most states, including ours in Missouri. It's proposed by the legislature, and then it's ratified by the voters. That's how we do it in the state of Missouri. We vote on all state amendments. Big example for you guys is medical marijuana. It just happened. It is a state amendment. It was proposed by state legislature, and the people of the state voted on it saying they wanted. Also, the Clean Missouri bill also was a thing that came in through the petition process, which we'll talk about later, and then it got on the ballot and then was voted and made an amendment. So in Missouri, it's proposed by the legislature, but we, the people, vote on it before it goes into the Constitution. If it is not passed by the people of Missouri, then it does not go into the state constitution. There it is again, full faith and credit. Article 4, we've talked about this several times. Article 4 ensures full faith and credit of all state laws. Means states must recognize public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of all their states. Marriage license, driver's license, divorce. We talked about this when we talked about Article 4 before. If you're driving down the road and you're heading toward Illinois and you cross the bridge from Missouri into Illinois and you're driving in your car, you can still drive in the state of Illinois because you have a Missouri driver's license. They recognize that license. If you go to Vegas and you have a quickie marriage in Vegas and you fly back to Missouri, you're still married. Right? If you fly to Vegas to get a divorce, you're then divorced. It's all those type of things. Those legal things are still taken in concept. Okay? But remember, we talked about the idea of conceal and carry. In some states, they have different conceal and carry laws, and because the laws are not exactly the same, that's why there's not full faith and credit, but like between Missouri and Illinois. Because in Illinois, you cannot have your gun concealed when you drive into the state, and you can't have your ammunition together with your gun, and that type of thing. So those are different. Branches of the state government, like we said, they are still the same: executive, judicial, legislative. Now, the difference in the executive branch at the state level and at the federal level is the executive officers at the state level are all elected, and they're elected separately. Whereas, like we talk about the executive branch, a lot of these people in the executive branch are appointed. Right? The Secretary of State in the federal government is appointed by the president. They're someone the president has decided, and they're ratified by the Senate. In the states, for Missouri, especially in our state, for example, we vote for everybody. The governor is the chief executive of the state. He is similar to the president. The president and governor would be the same. Okay? The lieutenant governor, executive officer who's next in rank to the governor, they would be similar to the vice president. Secretary of State, they are similar to the ideal Secretary of State. They record all the laws, they publish the laws, and they oversee all the elections. So if you want to get on the ballot in Missouri, you have to apply with the Secretary of State. The Attorney General, same thing, represents the state in legal matters, whereas the Attorney General of the United States represents the United States in all legal matters. Same thing. The Treasurer keeps track of all the money in and out of government, and the Auditor reviews the conduct of State Department conference to make sure the work is being done. So the Treasurer makes sure where all the money is, and the Auditor would go back and make sure that the State Department are doing what they're supposed to. Now, is it possible that the Auditor might be dealing with money in such situations because someone's not using their money right? That's also very possible. Okay? All right. All right. Sorry, is that the right slide? All right, here we go. Legislative. All right, continuing with the branches of the state government. The legislative branch in Missouri, we call it the General Assembly. You know, in the United States, we have Congress, right? We call it the General Assembly. Judicial has state courts. There are 3 levels. There's a circuit or trial court, which is the lowest level. The Missouri Court of Appeals. There are 3 districts: the Eastern, the Western, and the Southern. The Eastern District is in St. Louis. The Western District is in Kansas City. And the Southern District is in Springfield and also in Poplar Bluff. So sometimes they meet in Springfield, sometimes they meet in Poplar Bluff. The Missouri Supreme Court, you can appeal a decision to the Supreme Court, and it is in Jefferson City. So as you look at it, you have Circuit, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. It's set up exactly like the federal judiciary. It's almost exactly the same. It's very similar. You've got the trial court, circuit court. Again, they would have original jurisdiction only. Court of Appeals, appellate jurisdiction. Supreme Court, appellate jurisdiction. Just like we talked about with the other, with the federal government. It's exactly the same. All right, choosing judges. Now, in the federal government, we know that the president appoints the judges, and they are then voted on and approved by the Senate. That's how it works. Most states do not do that. In most states, judges are elected. In Missouri, we elect judges at the county and municipal levels. If you guys pay any attention to elections, here in Jefferson County, we have Jefferson County judges, and they are voted on. They run for election. They run for re-election. The Missouri state judges, we have a special thing called the Missouri Plan, or the Nonpartisan Court Plan, which we use as well as 34 states. It's called the Missouri Plan because it was invented by Wisconsin. No, of course not. It was invented by Missouri. Duh. So, Missouri Plan it's our idea. And so what you do is you take these judges, they're appointed by the governor. They get 3 or 4, I believe they get 3 names, or a group of names, from the Bar Association and the judges in the state. The governor then chooses one of them and nominates them, okay? Then they are in for 1 year, and they are voted on after a certain number of years. It's 12 for the Supreme Court, 6 for an appellate, like that. And it can be up to 7 to 12 years, okay? And they vote on them. So what happens is you're in office for 1 year, and basically it's put on the ballot, would you like to retain this judge, yes or no? And they vote yes or no, and then they're retained or not. And then a Supreme Court judge would not come up again for 12 years, a appellate judge for 7, a circuit court for 7, on and on. The idea is that you would vote on them. So it's a hybrid, if you will, between appointing a judge and voting for a judge. Okay? So it's a little bit different. All right? All right. That is all the slides on state government. Okay? I know it went a little quick. Like I said, the notes will be posted on Classroom. If you didn't follow this, or it's going too fast for you, just make sure to have asked to stop it. I will try to post this video when I get to school. I'll try to post this video as well on Classroom so you guys can use it later for review, because I know you guys want to hear my voice when you're at home, because I know it makes you happy. Okay, it doesn't, I don't care. So we know that. So if you have any questions on this, anything you're confused on, make notes of them. I will come in, I will be back tomorrow, and we will go over the Missouri government part of this. Any questions on this, we'll go over it and we'll talk about it, so that way you guys are prepared for Friday. All right? Hopefully you have a good rest of the day. I know you're sad I'm not there. I know you miss me. Try not to cry too much, and I'll see you on Thursday. Mr. Morrow, out.